change every year. So look at the latest one for 2018-19 and pick one from those. You get the most recent annual report and account may be downloaded from the website, although you may seek other background information on the company. The focus of your assignment is to be the annual report and accounts. Hello. Hi. You are required to examine all the narrative section of the report and account from corporate governance perspective and report on the following areas. So part A of the assignment, the compliance and disclosure of principles of corporate governance, which weighs 70% of this assignment. So you work on the part A will be equal to 70%. So the first question you need to answer is, if the company claims to comply with the provision of the 2016 UK code, just confirm this fact. You might just add the page number or couple of words that to confirm the company comply with this provision. Discuss any area where any non-compliance occurs and appraise whether this impact on the integrity of the company. So you need to discuss any area of non-compliance, adding page number or maybe how the company explained this or ignore this provision. And if that non-compliance impact the integrity of the company. Question 2, examine the disclosure on corporate governance and evaluate whether this demonstrates good principles of corporate governance within the company. Appraise whether this disclosure demonstrates that agency problem is reduced. So in the first question, you will explore the disclosures and compliance of the company with the code. In the second question, you need to show or examine if that disclosure demonstrates good principles of governance or not. And then if that disclosure, if the good practice of corporate governance lead to agency problem is reduced. Question 3, assess whether the risk management disclosure implies that company has satisfactory structure in place to identify and manage risk. And the last question, discuss briefly how your chosen company would improve its compliance and disclosure or the good practice if the 2018 Corporate Governance Code to be applied. So as we discussed in the last seminar, the last lecture, so there is some slide about 2018 UK Code. So you just go to this slide because I just show you what the difference between 2016 and 2018. So look at those slides. There's 4 areas of differences between the 2018 and 2016. You look for each area and you explore. You see in the annual report if the company comply or not with these 4 areas. Okay. So one of them is the stakeholder engagement and the workforce engagement. So the company should appoint one of the employee as a representative. So if you see that the company actually has one of the employee on the board, so that means if the 2018 is to be applied, so the company comply with this specific provision. If not, so you suggest what the company should do in order to comply with those differences. And part B, stakeholder and ethics. So this part is only 30%. So again, don't extend lots because it's only 30% of the assignment. So state with your reason who you consider to be significant stakeholder are taking account of the company and its operating environment. State whether the company identifies or ignores important stakeholder groups and evaluate any strategy disclosed for engaging and managing stakeholder. Again, you might go to use the power interest matrix that we talked about in the stakeholder and use this power interest, and so you know which stakeholder are important, which we should keep informed, which we can ignore, just try to move from the left box to the right box. You remember the power interest matrix? So use this matrix to identify the key important stakeholder and suggest any strategy. So if you know those stakeholders, which of the 4 group they are, so you can go to the strategy that is suitable for this group and then suggest, so if the company ignore one of them, so if those are key important, has the high power, high interest, so you need to suggest, so for this stakeholder to be involved in the board, for example, board meeting or whatever. Okay, depending on how important. The second question on part B is, does the company refer to values and ethics? Have there been any ethical challenges for the company over the year? In what ways do you consider that the company is meeting its ethical obligations? So you might just look at the news or Bloomberg or whatever to see if you can identify any ethical issue, any ethical challenge that the company faces. So the word limit is 3,500 words, excluding references and appendices. And you might, you know 3,500 word plus minus 10%. So you might go up to 3,850. And the submission is Friday, 3rd of May at 12 noon. So I'm just suggesting marking criteria. So what I'm looking for in your report. So you need to have introduction, background. So introduction that might, so why you doing this report? So you might talk about the 2 parts of the report, the compliance, disclosure, key stakeholder or stakeholder engagement, and ethics. And you will get up to 10 marks for having introduction and background. The background also you might have some, so why you're doing scoring system. So again, you might talk about the agency problem at first, and then because of the agency problem, so there's some theories to explain this agency problem and try to reduce this, and then every country try to just show the good practice or create a code to show good practice to company. So we have agency problem, we have their theory, corporate governance theories, we have the corporate governance, board of director, and then we need to have the code, the corporate governance code in every country so for company to follow good practice, and then obviously this score is needed to see how good or how bad a company at following this good practice. And then the second part is the scoring system creation. So you need to talk a little bit about the company, background about your company, and then justification. So how you're going to score the company. You remember, you might use 3-2-1-0 system or 1-0, 1-0 minus 1. So you need to talk about this. Just justify how you're going to score the company and why. Okay? And the element or the system, the score, the statement of you. So you might, if you have, if you don't have a word limit, so you might put the element or your system in the appendix. Okay, which is not considered, but you still need to show your statement or your system. Okay. And finally, the scoring and matching. So scoring the company itself. So you might create your scoring index or scoring system, but you might not go to your company. But for this one, you need to show that you score this company. So 3 for first provision, 2 for the second. So I need to see the company score based on your scoring system. So you will get up to 15 marks for this one. The third one is comply or explain and appraise whether this impacts on company integrity. So after you scoring the company, you need to confirm this in your text, so you confirm that this company comply with this provision as in page number this, or because they have two separated chairman and CEO, if you are talking about the duality. And if there is no compliance, non-compliance, you need to explain or get my page number and why, or if the company explain this or ignore that. And then appraise whether this impact on company integrity. So you get up to 15 mark on this part. So, and then we move to the second question, so about the disclosure, and if that disclosure demonstrate good practice, and if this good practice lead to reduced agency problem. So you get up to 8 on this point. And then the third point is the risk management disclosure, and if that demonstrate that the company can identify and manage risk effectively. And final point is, so you discuss briefly how compliance and disclosure would be improved if the 2018 UK code to be applied. And you get up to 7 on this. The part B, so key stakeholder and stakeholder engagement. So for this question, you get up to 9. And for the ethics and any ethical challenges, you get up to 12. And there's one more, okay. And conclusion and recommendation for part A and part B. Okay, so, and finally this 10 mark, so I will be looking about on the presentation, use of English, layout, referencing, any extra effort. So you get up to 10 mark for doing this, in good way. I'll upload those slides later today, so no worries. Huh? Do you have any question, guys? Any specific question about any point?